Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, TIZEN team and Samsung, for inviting me to this talk. I'm privileged to give this talk. So I saw the previous session. It was very good about connected home, how detailed IoT framework is doing a bottoms-up enabling of the IoT of industries. Now, in this talk, we will little bit go further, take a macro level picture and see what it means from a connected industries across, meaning macro view of all the industries across. So let's get started. So I got this joke on the Facebook. A person is going to his friend's house and both of them are chatting on WhatsApp with each other and they don't realize they are actually sitting in front of each of them. So what it means, so we have the human population is going to be exceeded with number of connected devices already. They are already above 7 billion. And we are connected. Are we really connected with each other? We are connected to the gadgets. Are we contextually intelligent in terms of what we are connected and why we are connected? And that's what I talked today about connected intelligence and what it means. So I would be covering from our industrial revolution to current days why the innovation triggers have happened. Most of them come from a humanistic drives. So we will cover that first. Then we will see what Internet of Things life cycle and what is the key success criteria for anyone to win in the IoT market. Then we will go about some use case examples on connected intelligence, and we will take different areas of market segments where TIZEN wants to play, automotive, consumer, industrial kind of scenarios. And then we will get into what a connected intelligent platform means, which needs to address the connected industries view across multiple industries. We will also look at the apps view on what an app developer should think on how to connect all the things across. And we will go over an example application. Humanistic triggers. So we all like to get connected. We like connections. Connections is a trigger. We all like to get serviced. Service is a trigger. We would like to offload all our work that we do, which is monotonous in nature, and we don't want to continue. We would like to offload. We like to keep important stuff centrally. We would like to have fun and get entertained. And by all this means, we all want to lazy, relax, and we want someone else to conserve the energy for us. So all these are human triggers, the innovation triggers that has driven industrial revolution to today's scenario on consumer services era that mobile devices are experiencing. Let's take an example of all the industry trends that are happening today. Connections, IoT of course, ubiquitous connectivity, smart social networks are the areas that is coming from connections trigger. Offload trigger, you see home building automation, industrial automation, autonomous vehicles where people don't want to drive, they're looking about driverless vehicles. Look at centralizing, cloud computing, cloud security, cloud storage, big data analytics. Look at service, you have cloud services, m-commerce, m-entertainment, m-health. Look at energy conservation, you have smart grids, smart cities, and smart vehicles, right? And fun and gaming, gamification of everything is something that's happening in the industry. So let's take some of the interesting market segments which TIZEN is focusing on. Let's take wearables as an example. So if you really look at, in years, all these wearables started off with fashion, time seeing, or fashion normal wear kind of equipments. But in the future, you will see on the textiles, I'll give a couple of examples. On the textiles, if I want to basically fill this feedback form and give it to people, I don't need to actually look for a feedback form to be filled in really. I can actually look at your clothings and your mood expressions can be coming out from your clothing and I can see how effectively you are engaged in my talk. So I don't need to basically go for a manual filling exercises. Let's take an eyewear example. Google glasses. If I'm going with the Google glasses and walking in the on road and I see a person and I want to get the complete person of the person completely, I can do a visual search in the background. I can get to know about their Facebook profiles and stuff like that. Maybe a good one for dating industries, right? So let's take automotive vehicles as an example. I'm covering mostly ADAS, assisted driver assistance and safety here. Not on the infotainment where TIZEN is focused on. If you really look at the lot of research in TI that is happening with respect to how we can actually do our safety algorithms much better and faster towards autonomous vehicle. Whether autonomous vehicle will happen in 2020 or 2025, next 5 to 10 years is still a debatable question. For sure, the safety applications and infotainment applications are getting fused and every infotainment system is getting connected to how effectively the ADAS systems are going to be evolving in autonomous vehicles. This is your favorite spot on consumer side from a Samsung angle, pleasure and utility. There is still a lot of scope for innovation that exists. Flex displays, of course, you guys are working. If I look at something along the lines of smell sensors, if I'm making a home appliance on a home and I'm cooking something and I want to get a cooking quality based on the smell, the cooker has to have inbuilt smell sensors, right? So to make sure that your quality of good in the food, what you're cooking is good before even tasted. So that's the kind of innovation that will continue to happen on end equipments. So let's take a back seat, what it means from an IoT angle and what it means for a person who's in a startup mode to go for an IoT startup and what it means for him to be successful in the industry. There are actually 3 different waves. I took this from Ericsson on the Internet of Things that is happening. The first wave is, of course, consumer electronics. We saw from Ashok the connected home examples in the demo, excellent demo. So moving on in parallel, network set of industries that are happening here. And then third level is improving the human efficiency by connecting everybody together. If you guys think the industrial wave is late, it is not. It is actually happening because there are 300 million smart meters in Europe that are already connected, and there is a level of innovation on how effectively that can be connected to mobiles or that can be connected to cloud for a complete consumption analytics and how energy can be saved. So the industrial wave is not behind. That's why the industrial consortium as well is driving things very fast on how to take things across industries. So what an entrepreneur or an app developer or anyone want to be successful in IoT, what they need to do? First, the IoT must quench one of the unique human trigger. Meaning, what is the human trigger that you really want to solve? You need to be clear about it, and you need to make sure that you are putting your vertical solution perfectly designed for that. Second, it should be mass deployment. Meaning you cannot basically do a deployment in scale for 3 years. It needs to happen rapidly. That means every IoT node that you are developing has a constrained product lifecycle time. It is not anymore 8 months, 10 months, it's like 3 months time window in which you have to basically come up with your nodes, and then you need to deploy it rapidly. The third is dark data utilization. What I mean by dark data, even in this room, if you want to get a humidity information or if you want to get a temperature information, we don't have sensors that are available here. Those are dark data. So everywhere there are dark data that is going to be available. Ashok talked about virtual sensors in the network. So you need to receive the dark information not only from yourself, from others, connected nodes, and the cloud, so that you understand and maximize the dark data available for you all the time. Third is business fusion. It's not just one industry. So if you take only one industry as connected home, the thermostat makers, the light makers, everybody has to talk to each other. So that means there is a level of vendor play that comes into picture on business fusion within one industry, but when it goes to multiple industries across, it becomes all the more complex to do. Nutshell, every connectivity or every connection in the IoT node should be actually valued. If a particular node goes for a toss during the runtime, you should be able to reconnect to that node in multiple ways. You cannot say that that node is not reachable. So that's needed for mass deployment. You should, essence, get behavior of things, how everything's behavior can be emulated on the industry. So if you look at from a product lifecycle perspective, connecting things, data gathering and optimization are the first steps for the IoT. This will roughly take 2 years for massive deployment to happen in the industry. The next one is driving services over that and try to basically interconnect multiple services. So this takes roughly 4 to 6 years, but that doesn't mean that we can wait. Platform providers like TIZEN or semiconductor vendors like us in TI, we need to start intercepting it well ahead of time, and that's what we are doing, and that's what is the demo that we saw as well in terms of how it is evolving. So now let's move on to the main topic of connected intelligence. The connected intelligence is emulating human contextual intelligence into every industry. Let's take few use case examples. Let's say a person is playing a game and he wants to leave to office or for a function, and he hires a Uber, right? And then when he goes to the U-bar, he basically need to start playing the same game on the car rear seat infotainment system. That means the TIZEN, which is being developed for IVI systems, the TIZEN, which is being developed for the TV, has to interact with each other and try to make sure the entire gaming context is real-time transferred. So it's not simple. The gaming context itself needs a lot of data. If it's a cloud game, it can be done much easier. If it is an individual game, that is a native game that is happening on a TV, it's much more complex for you to send all the data in compressed fashion, get into the IVA system and get it running backward. Let's take another example. Let's say a person meets with an accident. The insurance industries need to basically get to know where the accident happened and how the accident happened and what kind of damage has happened to the vehicle. So all these information from a connected camera needs to go to the insurance claim. In parallel, a road service provider needs to attend to the user. That means these three industries need to talk to each other to make sure how effectively a seamless experience is provided to the user. That is from an automotive perspective. Let's look at from a connected home. We saw the example. I can probably quickly go over. Let's say Samsung is making a refrigerator and it is a TIZEN based refrigerator. We need to basically analyze the food quality, and if a person is putting a vegetable on the top row of the refrigerator, there should be a guidance rule that should go and say that it should not be put on the top row automatically. And let's say you want to get a tomato quality, how effectively it is, and you want to give an alert for a grocery purchase, it needs to happen automatically, seamlessly for the user. So it means the OEM of a refrigerator, OEM of a cooking equipment needs to talk to each other. It need not be from a same vendor, it can be from multiple vendors. Let's take a connected health example. Yesteryears, we used to go to hospitals, or doctors used to come here to serve us on what exactly is the problem. But today we have a lot of wearables that are coming out which are monitoring your health perspective and how effectively your health parameters are going out of bound or inbound, and you get this information, right? So you will start seeing there will be more implants that will go into the people, and the implants will monitor. When the implants are put on the device, it means that they will run for 20 years life cycle for power consumption, right? And they will take all your vital analytics and give. I would like to quote Dr. Kalam here. When he came here last month to our campus, he was taking it further. In 2050, we will have something like a DNA modified specific human intelligent medicines given to each one of us. So it will not be a prescribed medicines that we will get. Each one of us, the 7 billion people, will get unique set of medicines. That means any pharma makers will start researching how effectively they can try to individualize human experience on their health. Let's say if you want to get to a hospital, today you have long queues to get into the hospital. But moment your vital monitoring is automatically happening on the connected devices, you will know exactly the kind of problem that you are going to have. So the doctors are aware well before you reach the hospital. The service desk on the cloud automatically knows your past parameters. There are no more emergency procedures in terms of how effectively you are going to be basically taken, wait for 2 hours before you are being operated or taken for a chronic disease help. So this will completely change the landscape in next 10 years. So that means the number of companies, the number of industries need to work together on a connected intelligence becomes much more order of complexity. Let's take an industrial example as well. Today, if you go for any factories which basically needs fuel, there are scheduled deliveries that happens on a regular days. It can be on, let's say, a Friday or a Tuesday, scheduled delivery of fuel supply that happens. The tankers go on those particular days, they fill the fuel for the amount that they have actually charged for, and then they come back. But think of a scenario where you will have automatic level measurement that will happen, a fuel consumption analytics that will happen in the factories. Then the fleet management providers will automatically get an alert at what point of time they need to refill the fuels and what exactly the quantity that they need to refill for. So if that happens, the amount of energy that is going to be saved is huge, and which is a must for this environment. So let's take a back seat and look at TIZEN kind of platform providers or TA kind of hardware providers, what it means with respect to connected intelligence. The connected devices proliferation is across industries. As we talked about, the number of devices will be huge in terms of thousands of devices that you would really want to connect. Not only a connected home, not only a connected hospital, not only a connected health, it is across all. So that means the order of complexity of the platform design is going to be much more higher. Let's look at from a consumer services in the future, how effectively we will see. Yesterday, I hope many of you were in the presentation of Naveen from InMobi, right? So he actually explained that they are putting the user in the middle and they really want to know the advertisements are not actually affecting the users in a bad way and they want to make it entertaining for them. If you look at Amazon or Flipkart, they really need to know how effectively the user is converting their purchases. Whether are they really looking window shopping on their websites, or they really converting that into actual transactions or not. So all these things can be enabled only by a contextual intelligence. Each one of them, let's say Uber or Ola, are trying to invest heavily in understanding how the user is behaving on their networks. But if you look at the user behavior, that varies. A social activity tracking on a Facebook, machine interaction activities on a consumer appliances, professional activity tracking in a LinkedIn kind of services, hobby tracking, let's say you're going for tourism industry or any of those areas, the transaction tracking like a PayPal or a Paytm transaction that are going to happen, geolocation tracking at any point of time. All of them give a holistic view of contextual intelligence of the user. This holistic view cannot be achieved by one single industry's research and innovation alone. That means connecting the intelligence services from one industry to the other industry is the way to the future. The trusted intelligence provider, whoever gives that intelligence in a trusted fashion, will be the kingmaker in the forthcoming years. And that's the reason you see Apple and Facebook are really actually investing very heavily on such a holistic kind of intelligence, and there are a lot of acquisitions that happens in the industry. Little Eye Lab is one example. Tukitaki is another example who are looking at in those areas. So let's look at from a platform provider's view. So we have those many industries to handle, and we have set of network providers like Airtel, B2C service providers, delivery mans or sales forces, government services like access and utility meters. On top of it, you have tools and gadgets that you give it to all. And you have hardware platform providers, semiconductor vendors, and software platform providers like TIZEN. And all these vertical industries have digital solution and service providers. Ola, Netflix, Big Basket, all these guys are digital solution providers. So all of them are looking for such a connected intelligence layer from TIZEN kind of platforms. So what it means from a hardware angle for TR. So there is a whole set of protocols that are there with respect to connecting intelligence. Wi-Fi, GPS, Bluetooth, 6LoWPAN, PurePath, sub-gigahertz, Bluetooth low energy, Zigbee. It's just growing. It's 802.11. AH is the integrated Wi-Fi and BLE standards that we are working on. So it's a huge number of standards that are growing. On top of it, the huge number of nodes that you have. So we need to provide a big analog signal chain, a power management solutions, sensor solutions, wire and wireless connectivity solutions, microcontrollers, processors. We play in all the fields, and we basically also provide solutions for end nodes, IoT nodes, gateways, and cloud. All these should try to give a behavior of always on, always connected, always safe, always secure, always location aware, always self-aware, always sense, and always environment aware. So what does that mean? Always on, ultra low power consumption. We are already talking about sub nanoamperes of current that we need to basically do for energy harvesting in the IoT nodes. If you are actually having a medical implant in your devices, you would not be operating human beings and taking out, putting the implant back every 10 years. Even 10 years is, on a coin cell battery is not good enough. Sorry. Always connected. Of course, you need to know intelligently if one protocol breaks or one particular node breaks, how effectively you can reach out the same node in multiple angles. Always secure. Security needs privacy, data confidentiality, authentication. There are a huge layer of services that needs to be addressed from a hardware angle. Always safe. Fault agnostics. In industrial scenario, the reliability is the maximum concern that you need to look for. You cannot go back and tell that at 105 degrees the device will not operate, or a minus 40 degrees the device will not operate. The industries are completely different, so you need to have safety solutions going at all levels. Always sense. You need to have sensor fusion or fusion sensing kind of capabilities in the hardware embedded. Always self-aware. You need to have over-the-air upgrade for software that needs to happen. I'll take again example of medical implant. If you want to really upgrade your software on a medical implant, how effectively it is going to work on in terms of how you are adding feature set. You cannot have a 2.3 beta coming, 2.4 beta coming, and have a release candidate coming. And it's a much more complex way of dealing with such a OTA kind of scenarios. Software platform providers like TIZEN, first of course is to focus on fusion sensing. Let's take an example of intrusion detection. The intrusion detection can be done in many ways. It can be done by acoustics means, it can be done by camera means, it can be done by thermal imaging means. There are different type of sensors that can be used for actual intrusion detection. There has to be intelligence on the software layer to understand what kind of sensor is used for such an application. And you need to understand if one data point is missing from one sensor, you should still be able to predict, correlate, and interpret the actual data. That's what I mean by fusion sensing. Next one, cross-platform notifications. You guys are already working on if it's a refrigerator to a washing machine to a wristwatch, how effectively the notifications are going to vary, how it is going to vary based on the actual LCD screen size, or what kind of rendering frame rate that I need to basically give on a graphics processor and stuff like that. That's what you're looking at. But if I just take one step back and then look at from an industry perspective, a digital solution provider like an Amazon would want to have a notification on a transaction. But a digital service provider like a tourism industry like a Tobago would want to get on the same transaction which particular hotel that actually you booked for. So the actual notification content varies based on what digital solution provider you are giving the information for. That means the platform aggregation level across industries has to operate at a multiple level, one from a device angle, what kind of notification for a user experience I can give, other one from a digital solution provider angle, how effectively I can pass the notifications across. Next one is data tunneling. The data is going to be very costly. So anybody who's going to have contextual intelligence data, as I said, are going to mint money, and they're going to charge money for providing such an intelligence. When they do that real time, there should be a high security available for the data, and it needs to be tunneled only to that digital solution provider. An Amazon data that you're giving from a platform cannot reach, let's say, a Flipkart or some other completely a different digital solution provider for that contextual intelligence. Multi-service hosting. So we talked about many examples of the use cases and how effectively these industries needs different kind of services, and what kind of services that I can holistically give on a single platform becomes a must. Distributed computing. You cannot compute everything at one node. It's ruled out because your capabilities of the end device nodes in IoT will be variable in nature. You may have a microcontroller which is running at a less than 50 megahertz to a mobile phone which is running at a 2 gigahertz system, to a cloud which is basically running at a terahertz kind of computing system, and you need to have varied level of intelligence coming from different places. You will pre-process at one node, you will process at one node, you will post-process at different node, and you need to basically pass the data effectively for your processing capability. Secure data exchange. We talked about it. The security is a prime most concern, and it varies at different level. Let's say if you're doing a transaction, the level of data that you're going to do on a transaction is in terms of bytes, your credit card information that goes in. But it needs a supreme level of security. But on the other way, let's say Netflix is streaming a content onto a autonomous IVA system, the actual data is much, much, much higher. and the hardware firewall security that you need to have in terms of people not taking your video content away is also much higher. So the complexity of the security levels and the security data payload that you are going to operate will be completely different, and the platform need to scale for all the ends. But not the least, obviously it needs to interoperate between industries, between end equipments, between IoT nodes, and it has to give a uniform user experience. So we talked about most of that. So now let's move on to an actual example connected intelligence application that can happen 3 to 5 years from now. We know that the natural resources are becoming scarcity. Water is going to be a problem 5 or 10 years from now. The electricity is going to be charged. It's not going to be provided by government. It will be privatized and charge it heavily. And the road conditions in Bangalore may or may not vary at all. And we might take roughly 2 hours to reach home at any point of time. So user basically starts from his office and he reaches home, and he obviously wants to relax when he goes back from home. So he orders an Uber. So Uber and PayPal start working with each other, and your platform needs to scale for 2 guys. Now the Uber guy and the PayPal guy. Then you go, this guy wants to basically watch his favorite movie Bahubali back, and he wants to Netflix it, and he wants to Netflix it from the place it actually stopped yesterday night. So that means the Netflix guy and the Uber guy and the IBA guy needs to talk to each other, right? Third, washing machine from home is giving an alert. This time not the wife, the washing machine itself gives, saying onions are missing in the fridge, right? So he needs to order onion. So he goes to Big Basket on the IBA infotainment system and orders. When he orders, he knows that last week was a birthday party for his son, and he got a gift card and he has not utilized. The Big Basket has to automatically negotiate an access or a Visa gift card into the actual purchase on the transaction. And he gets a water quality alert. The water pH meter says the water quality is really bad. And I don't think any startups are there today for, in India at least, for a order for a purified water. OSIS is something that is operating in Europe. So you can actually order the water, and the water purifier gets refilled. A weather monitor says the Bangalore weather was bad for last 5 days. Your solar backup on the system is really bad. Your home is not sufficiently powered. So now this guy needs to go order something from a smart grid in terms of taking a power backup for his thing for the weekend, right? So this is the kind of user experience that will happen when multiple industries are connected together. So it's not a simple task for a platform provider. So let's look at from a standards perspective. We saw that there are many standards that are emerging. There are many forums. We heard about OSC, IIC, Thread, Internet of Things Consortium. Even though they are actually working on different areas of optimization today, I hope they all will come together one day to make sure the connected intelligence is much better. Diverse platforms. As a startup makers, you should not get confused on how many platforms are going to come up, but your nodes where you are actually focusing on, and deployment is very important. And TIZEN is in the middle of all these things to bridge the gap.